The meeting of the Metropolitan Council Transportation Committee for September 8th, 2025. Because we're in a new location, every time we move location, we do actually speak the Dakota Land, Water, and People Acknowledgement. With that, I will state that the Metropolitan Council acknowledges that the land we currently call Minnesota, and specifically the 7-county region, is the ancestral homeland of the Dakota Oyate, who are present and active contributors to our thriving region. As part of the Metropolitan Council's commitment to address the unresolved legacy of genocide, dispossession, and settler colonialism, and the fact that government institutions, including the Metropolitan Council, benefited economically, politically, and institutionally after the forcible removal of the Dakota Oyate, the Metropolitan Council is dedicated to instilling land, water, and people commitments in regional policy. These commitments support the Dakota Oyate, the 11 federally recognized tribes in Minnesota, Ho-Chunk Nation, and the American Indian communities representing over 150 diverse tribal nations that call the 7-county region home. Moving on to business, our first order is to adopt the agenda. If there's no changes or additions, we can proceed. All right, very good. The agenda is approved. We have 2 sets of minutes to are approved tonight. The first one is the approval of a revised copy of the August 11th, 2025 meeting minutes. The meeting minutes were amended to remove references to specific information from the new vendors procurement consistent with the Data Practices Act. So if anyone was curious. With that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from August 11th.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Carter. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and those are adopted. Moving on to approval of the August 25th meeting minutes. If there's no changes or additions, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Obisakin. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. On to reports. We'll go first to MTS Services Director Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, council members. Linked in the agenda is the public comment report for TPP Amendment Number 1 related to the Blue Line Extension and Gold Line Extension. At your next meeting, a proposed action will accept the comment report and approve the amendment. You'll hear more about the comments as part of that meeting. Normally, we do an info item at this meeting to go over the comment report in detail, but due to time constraints tonight and a small number of comments that are largely supportive of the amendment, we decided to abbreviate the preview and just cover it through my report. A total of 20 comments were received. For Blue Line Extension, 12 in support and 3 opposed. For Gold Line Extension, 15 in support and no specific opposition. Behind that were about 240 web views, over 2,000 Facebook post views, and nearly 3,500 clicked through email or web announcements. Materials were also promoted through web, social media, and Star Tribune advertisement. So with that, you can anticipate a longer report on the amendment at your next meeting. But for now, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we're moving on to Metro Transit General Manager Canderas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Barber and committee members. I do not have a report tonight, just recognizing we have a lot of material we want to get through, but if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
Thank you. Any questions at all for Leslie? All right, very good, thank you. And we do not have a TAC report tonight, and there are no items on the consent agenda. So we're moving to the 2025-225, or business item 2025-225 is the 2026 Unified Planning Work Program. And we have Bethany Brandt Sargent here. Welcome.
Madam Chair, I just have a quick question here. Maybe I miss this often, but how much of this was done in other languages, this outreach and the comment where you had the comments were?
For the public comment period?
Yeah.
If you don't mind holding a minute?
Yeah, I just looked
Madam
at it.
Chair, council member, it's a great question. I know we do provide language support. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but we'll incorporate it in our report to you at your next meeting when we bring this item forward for approval. Good question.
Councilmember Johnson?
One quick follow-up on that. And if we have more of those, then do you want it to be kind of a standing inclusion? So if we have that question again, you can just kind of make it part of the reports on outreach?
Yes.
All right, anything additional? All right, back to you.
Thank you, Chair Barber and members. My name is Bethany Brandt Sargent. I'm a planner at the council in our MTS planning department. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm here today regarding the 2026 Unified Planning Work Program, which is our application for federal funds for transportation planning, given all of the work that we do in MTS planning leading up to Imagine 2050 in our regional development guide and the update in 2060. So this work that's attached on the agenda includes our federal application as well as a regional application. In previous versions of the work program, they were combined, but this year, due to federal changing priorities, we wanted to make sure that we are clear what we are spending the federal planning dollars on, so there are two separate documents. We need approval for the federal document, and that includes a total budget of a little over $11 million with $5.9 million in federal funds. Within our Unified Planning Work Program, we have 5 various work task activity areas that dictate the staff time and efforts that we'll be spending the federal money on, and the $2.1 million worth of consultant studies. There is a federal requirement to spend 2.5% of our planning dollars on complete streets related activities. And through our modal planning work activity area, we spend well above that. But in 2026, we will be initiating a study on Complete Streets Local Implementation Guide that will certainly cover that requirement. We did do a public review and comment period. We received no public comments from this, but we did receive multiple minor comments from Federal Highway, Federal Transit, and MnDOT, and we revised the UPWP to reflect those comments. So with that, I would ask for an action to recommend adoption of the UPWP and authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute an agreement.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And moved by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Obi-Sakin. Is there any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, on to our second business item, which is 2025-228, which is release of the draft 2050 TPP Amendment 2, which is the Aviation System Plan Update. And we have Joe Whiting here to present.
Greetings, Chair and council members. I'm back here with another aviation item. I seem to be here every month with these now. I promise won't be back for a little while, but today we'll be talking about the second TPP amendment, which will be the full update and replacement of the 2050 Aviation System Plan and its supporting documentation. And we are here now to talk about releasing this for public comment. Really brief presentation here, just outlining a couple of these items that we talked about, the information item a couple months ago, but just want to really hammer these home about the importance of what we're doing here and then the timeline of what to expect moving forward. So I'll make clear that aviation is not a federally mandated system. It is something it's found in state statute, which tasks us, the Met Council, to plan for the regional aviation system. And so a key nuance here is the council must prepare what's known as a regional aviation system plan, which is within the transportation policy plan, but it's a state requirement again. So therefore, because of the state, not a federal requirement, we kind of worked at a dual process here to get to this point today. So the dual process looked like we were adopting a minor update with the TPP when it came through in February for adoption. But at the same time, we were working with our local partners and with our consultant team as well to ensure that a full update of the plan got kind of full due and came through here to actually update and replace that minor update we conducted to make within that federal deadline for the TPP. State statute also, just a reminder, requires us to, our partners at the MAC and other airports to update with some of those long-term comprehensive plans. Those are being incorporated into this update as well, including MSP and then Flying Cloud, which I was just here last month for. And then also, just one key point here, just a real important nuance here, is the Met Council does not fund any aviation activity in the region. That's why this is a system plan and not an investment plan as you see those other modal plans. So that's just a few key considerations here to look forward here. One I really want to highlight again the process we did to get to this point here with the public comment period. So through this process, we worked here with many of our regional stakeholders, including our regional airport operators, local communities which are impacted by airports, and also business groups and other industry professionals as well. First, what we want to do is really look at reviewing that existing plan, those existing aviation policies on the books from 2040 and beyond and earlier, and then looking to really have that be something that we align with that 2050 vision, Imagine 2050. And so we conducted these teams, which again included MAC, MnDOT, FAA, other airport operators, industry stakeholders like Delta and Sun Country, Met Council staff, and also city and communities as well. In addition, we went out and presented to additional local communities like Lakeville and also local business organizations like the Minnesota Business Aviation Aircraft Association to really solicit as much feedback as we could before we got to this point with those partners and ensure that the policies we're establishing in this plan and the plan itself is meeting both our regional vision and also our partners' needs and expectations from the council as well. So don't have a whole lot more on that, but just want to really get a touch over that again before we go into the process here for the public comment itself. So as I mentioned, I was here a couple months ago on the 23rd for an information item, which had a lot more information than I'm presenting today. And now we're moving on to that action item period. As you can see here, we've moved through the TAC process over January and August, and now we're here at the Met Council itself on today. Go to the Met Council, full council on the 24th to release this for public comment. It'll receive its standard 45-day public comment period, which will run from the end September 25th till November 10th. And then I'll be back here in late October on the 27th for a public hearing for this item as well. And I see that my action slide didn't get added to that. That's okay. We had an action slide, but that's okay. It's not here. But the action, I don't remember the action on the top of my head. But before we do that, I would open up any questions or comments. And Charles, if you can help me out a little bit.
Sure thing.
Perfect. We can, one of us will read it. So, but any questions or comments from council members? All right, seeing none, the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council approve releasing the draft 2050 TPP Amendment to Aviation System Plan Update, replacing the existing aviation elements of the TPP for public comment or public review and comment. I entertain a motion to approve business item 2025-228.
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Osman. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Cameron. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, that concludes our business for tonight. If there's no objections, I think both of those items are pretty standard. Can go on the consent agenda. Full council. All right, very good. Moving on to information, we have the 2026 to 2031 Transit Capital Improvement Program Overview. And Kristen Prescott and Heather Giesel here to present.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. I'm Heather Giesel. I'm the Director of Finance and Administration for Community Development and Metropolitan Transportation Services, joined by Kristen Prescott from Metro Transit as the Finance Director. Where's my remote? There we go. So we will just do a high-level overview of the transportation division as a whole, talking about the consolidated financials for the capital program, and then I'll move on to Metro MTS, and then Kristen will cover Metro Transit. So just as a reminder, the transportation division here at the council consists of both Metro Transit, regular route service, express bus, the Metro lines, North Star commuter rail, and then capital project development, and also Metropolitan Transportation Services, or MTS, where we operate contracted bus, special transportation services, that's Metro Mobility and Metro Move, Transit Link, Van Pool, and the planning department. So the budget development schedule. So budget development activities for the capital program took place between May and July, with the preliminary budget presented to the Transportation Committee. I think that was actually back in the end of August, maybe. Anyway, preliminary budget presented. Now we're here with the capital program. So that's being presented here today to Transportation Committee. And then, in September, and then October, we will bring the preliminary capital and operating budget to the full council before it goes out for public comment, and then the final version is adopted in December. So we are committed to being good stewards of public resources as we carry out our mission. Each year, we develop operating and capital budgets. The operating budget shows revenues and expenditures to support our council operations. The capital budget shows revenues and expenditures that involve major capital assets. The basis for the budget development is Minnesota Statute 473.125. So some revenue assumptions that are in the 2026 to 2031 capital program. We have regional transit capital, or RTC, increasing at 3.3% per year. The regional sales tax investments per the criteria laid out in legislation. State funding from both appropriations and motor vehicle sales tax. Federal funds, those are the formula funds that we receive. Those are increasing at 2.5% through 26 through 31. And then the federal regional solicitation. New starts and small starts are at the project office levels. So the uses as defined in the capital program, they're organized into 6 different categories. We have fleet, support facilities, customer facilities, technology, other equipment, and transitways. So this is the transportation-wide transit capital program. This includes both Metro Transit and MTS combined together. It's a total of $6.26 billion. So this includes projects that are currently authorized in the authorized capital program, as well as future programs that are planned in our capital improvement program. Sources here, you'll see federal funds make up 31%, or just shy of $2 billion of the total. State funds are 5%, or $322.5 million total. If you were to look back at past transit capital programs, this amount is lower as we shifted a lot of the expenses to the new sales tax. Local funds are at $2.6 billion. Regional funds, $1.4 billion. That includes $919 million of sales tax. So now I will move into the authorized capital program. So this is funding that is currently authorized and has already been approved by the council. There is $402.4 million of local and county funding, $358 million of federal funding, $266 million of regional sales tax, $218 million from the state, $121 million of RTC, and then $5.7 million for the regional solicitation. And now focusing on the cash flows. So these are the uses for the authorized capital program. So we've divided them into objectives and categories. So the largest category for both objectives and categories and uses is transitways. So 52%, so just shy of $713 million is transitways. 40% is preservation, or about $548 million. That's dominated by replacement buses and support and customer facilities, and then $111 million for expansion. On the right-hand side, you can see the uses by categories, again, heavily dominated by transitways. That's things like Metro Blue Line and the Green Line extensions. The next largest category that you can see there is fleet at 21% of the pie, or just shy of $291 million, followed by facilities, other capital, and technology at 12%. So included in that other capital category is downtown and I-35W, signals and track, some light rail, tangent. I don't know what these acronyms mean. I can. Let's see, Lindbergh Tunnel, light rail vehicle blocks and rail, some fair equipment, and other technology. So now moving on to the CIP, which is planned work where funding has not already been or has yet to be authorized by the council. We have just shy of $4.9 billion planned, $216 billion of that coming from local funds in the counties, $1.41 billion in federal funding, $653 million in regional sales tax, $104 million from the state, $358 million of RTC, and then another $204 million that is set aside or reserved for the federal regional solicitation. Again, moving on to uses, again, you can see in the planned CIP that, again, transitway expansion takes up the bulk of the objectives at just over $3 million. And the largest category is, the next largest category is fleet at $713 million. And support facilities at $319 million, and customer facilities at $87 million. And then other capital, that again includes the categories that I noted in the ACP, and technology are $579 million. And then again, on the right-hand side, preservation accounting for 32%, and expansion at 3% of the total. So I will move on to MTS now. So these are the MTS-specific capital improvement program. Again, a reminder of what those services look like. I won't read through them again, other than to mention that the suburban transit providers will be mentioned briefly in here as we talk about some of the changes that are taking place in 2026 as a result of some of the policy changes that are moving their way through council right now. So first up is the state appropriate, or the special transportation services. So again, we started the forecasted funding for special transportation services on July 1st of 2025. That is to maintain the general existing condition of special transportation service bus fleet, including maintenance and replacement. So the forecast that we use and submit to the state is including both the cost of operations and our anticipated cost of capital for Metro Mobility and Metro Move as well. So that new forecasted funding is included in the council's 2026 to 2031 CIP. And then, as you can see here, we have identified sources and uses. It's really simplified now. We will have the federal formula earnings covering the bulk of those fleet and capital purchases, with then the state making up the local match portion, $22.1 million. And the uses are largely for fleet preservation, at least in this CIP. We don't have much or if any expansion at this point, and then $500,000 in technology. And then moving on to the rest of MTS contracted services. So this includes fixed route, transit link, van pool, microtransit is in there, and then I'll touch a little bit briefly on a couple of suburban transit provider projects that are in the uses side. So again, federal is making up the bulk of that. It is just shy of $127 million in federal formula earnings, $10 million in regional sales tax, and then $83 million of RTC. And then uses, again, the fleet is the majority of the purchases that we are replacing. MTS does not own any facilities, so the bulk of our purchases are in fleet. You can also see technology there at just shy of $44 million. There is $18.6 million here of what we're calling subrecipient capital. So this is the federal formula earnings for Maple Grove, Plymouth, and the U of M, which we are keeping in our CIP, understanding that they are unlikely or not likely to choose the option to be direct recipients. So those will reside in our capital program. And then the $4 million of public transit facilities is an already active grant to MBTA for work on their Apple Valley Transit Station. So that will reside in our CIP. We will see it through in the subrecipient relationship since it's already in the works. But it would be one of the last ones to be managed by the council before any that are not in federal agreements now would be moved over to management by MBTA. And then this last slide, just to kind of show you what prior CIPs would have included for the suburban transit providers and what it's going to look like under this current CIP, given some of the policy changes. So prior CIPs would have included STP replacement fleet, expansion fleet, money set aside for facilities, and then as well as shared capital for a local match to federal competitive grants. So we held back money for either competitive discretionary grants that they could apply for or regional solicitation grants. So that money has all been replaced by increased allocations of federal and regional funds to the STPs that will show up either in their own capital programs if they're direct recipients, so they will not go through the council books, or they will show up on our operating budget in the pass-through account. So they would be managed like our MVEST does. So they are not in the CIP, but the equivalent amount of money will be moved over to the operating side. Current CIP includes, as I mentioned, 5307 formula earnings for Maple Grove, Plymouth, and the U of M. The equivalent, and then I already mentioned this, but the equivalent funding has been moved over to the operating budget for the STPs. So that includes the sales tax, the new allocation that's being proposed as part of that transit funding allocation policy, sales tax in lieu of the RTC levy. So we will include in the pass-through account what their communities would have levied in the form of sales tax. And those are eligible for capital or operating uses by the suburban transit providers. And then removed from the 2026 to 2031 CIP would be direct recipients from FTA. So the Southwest Transit and MBTA 5307 formula earnings, as I had mentioned. So I can stand for any questions on that before I transfer over to Kristen for Metro Transit.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, could you remind me too, with MVTA and Southwest Transit transitioning to be direct recipients, does that have to be approved, or we're making that transition now, or when does it officially kick in? And I should know this, I'm sure, but I don't.
Madam Chair, committee members, I can answer and then Charles can add anything. So we've had conversations with FTA about starting the process. They're aware of it at FTA Region 5. There is some due diligence for the FTA to do, but they will work directly with MBTA and Southwest Transit, it's my understanding, on that. And then the council, as the designated recipient, will execute a split letter that will indicate what the formula funding allocation looks like in the region, and that will then be submitted to the FTA. So I don't know if there's anything else to add beyond that.
Yeah, Madam Chair, council member, so the FTA and the providers would go through a legal, technical, and financial review on whether those providers can receive federal funds, and we anticipate they are, but it's a process. And then the council would issue, with your approval, a split letter that says, we received the $5,307, but this provider is going to receive this much, and this provider is going to receive this much, and that paves the way for them to apply to the FTA to receive those funds and grants.
And just a quick follow-up, if I may, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
So Charles, with that split that we determine, is that a federal formula that we're simply applying locally? We don't have discretion in that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, council member, yes, the policy would be that we allocate it based on the federal formula, and that's set by the federal government.
And just one quick, and then, so do we have any new policy that's going to come into play when they become direct recipients, and what our role could be in the future? Should new people come to office and get into the leadership roles of those organizations and maybe change their mind? How would we, is that just down the road we're going to kind of figure that out, or do we know how we're going to, manage if there's or is it just set in stone? Once you decide, it's over and you're on your own?
Yeah, Madam Chair, council member, I think our policy provides for those two options. When we provide your services, we would continue subrecipient relationships. When you provide your services, you will receive these funds directly. So a provider could choose between those, or a future council or this council could revise the current policy and redirect how we approach federal funds.
Okay.
There's a lot of flexibility because it's not statute, it's in policy.
And I just appreciate that and all your hard work on all of this transition. And I think that I'm hopeful that it all works out, because the going back and forth could be really a lot if there's a sea change here and there and here and there. So I don't anticipate that happening, but you should try to anticipate the unanticipated, if you know what I mean. So thank you, Madam Chair.
And just a note to council members, we actually vote on the transit allocation policy on Wednesday. So you're going to, that will kind of kick things off on our side.
Yep.
Yeah. So any additional questions or comments right now? Okay, back to you, Kristen.
All right, excuse me. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. Again, my name is Kristen Prescott. I'm Acting Finance Director for Metro Transit, here to present Metro Transit's 2026 Capital Program Overview. So I wanted to start by giving you a snapshot of our current system that is in operation. So we have over 750 regular route and contracted buses, 114 light rail vehicles. This does include, the 114 does include our Green Line Extension LRVs. We have over 1,100 customer shelters, over 16 support facilities. That includes garages, overhaul bays, police and administration, 41 rail platforms, and 65 parking structures and surface lots. So our budget development is driven by Metro Transit Forward. That is our strategic framework that is guided by 3 priorities: employees, experience, and service. Our capital program is focusing on these 3 priorities by investing in our bus fleet, as we're replacing fleet that's reaching its useful life. We're maintaining our light rail system. That includes the Renew the Blue program. We're repairing and expanding our support facilities for items like Network Now and the Green Line Extension Service. And then we're also investing in public facilities and technology, and that's to help improve customer experience, including safety. So what you're looking at is our budget highlights as they relate to our strategic priorities. This illustrates how we are aligning our capital program with these priorities. So we have, under employees, we're focusing on support facilities, storage capacity, and safety items such as the roof and HVAC replacement and fire protection. Under experience, we're focusing on making our system more accessible and safe. This includes our variable message signs, fare collections, lighting and cameras, station renovation, and bus shelter improvements. And then under service, we have our transit investments. That includes the LRT extensions, our arterial and highway bus rapid transit. We have our bus and rail overhaul programs, as well as the bridge maintenance program. So our planned capital budget is $4.56 billion. On the left-hand side, you can see the sources. Our regional sales tax is about 14% of our funding. $1.3 billion is for federal funding. Just to let you know, this does include $771 million for the Blue Line Extension. And then that big yellow piece is our local funding at $2.2 billion. Of this, $1.6 billion is local funding to be determined for the Blue Line Extension. On the right-hand side is our uses. You can see the big use there is our transitway expansion. That's 70% of our capital budget. And that includes the Green Line and the Blue Line Extension, the arterial and highway bus rapid transit systems. So the bulk of this funding is funded by our federal and local funding partners. You can see preservation there in the blue at 27% of our planned capital budget. This is to keep our current assets in a state of good repair while improving employee work environments, customer experience, and service. And then the 3% of our other expansion projects, that includes things as like our electric bus infrastructure and the transit information system. So I wanted to kind of give some of the budget drivers that go into our capital budget. We'll go ahead and start with our revenue fleet at $449.1 million. We have 224 replacement buses. That again is to replace our current fleet that is reaching its useful life. We're purchasing 66 additional buses. That's to continue to help build us back our fleet to pre-COVID levels. We have 43 electric buses included, and that's following the Metropolitan Council's zero-emission bus transition plan. And all of our electric buses will be paid for using sales tax. And then I put a little cost perspective in here. So an electric bus is at $1.6 million per bus, compared to a 40-foot diesel bus, which is about $952,000. And then the final thing on the slide is our fleet maintenance at $64 million. This is really for our light rail vehicle overhaul. That includes the brakes, the doors, and some corrosion mitigation. So our next budget driver is the light rail state of good repair. So our light rail system is aging. So the blue lines started service in 2004, and then the green line in 2014. So understandably, we're needing to substantially invest in maintaining the associated infrastructure. It includes the green line signal and track improvements. We're replacing the downtown obsolete rail and rail signal processors. We have our bridge maintenance program, our Renew the Blue program, and that includes our rail replacement, Lindbergh tunnel work, track and signal components, and the DC breaker and control relays. There's also a small amount, about not a small amount, but $40.9 million of smaller state of good repairs for the blue and light rail extensions, or light rail projects. But I do want to note that there will be additional money to support the Green Line state of good repair. This is going to be coming into the capital improvement plan in future years. Our next budget driver at $315.6 million is preserving our support facilities and building out where needed for service expansion. So we have our roof replacement to keep our roofs in a state of good repair. Our non-revenue shop, that's to give us more space and preparing for the light rail extensions. We have our electric bus infrastructure for electrification, our electrification plan. Our HVAC replacement for equipment that's reaching its end of life. And then the other critical support facilities at $146.7 million. That includes things like our North Loop garage expansion, electric bus fire protection, exterior improvements to our light rail facilities, fire alarm systems, and sprinklers. And then our final budget driver I wanted to mention is our technology and public facilities. These investments increase accessibility, safety, comfort, and better facilitate customer use of transit. We're renovating Franklin and 46th Street light rail stations for ADA safety improvements. Our transit information system software, that'll make it easier for our customers to use our system. And then the bus shelter improvements and platform renovations to improve customer comfort and safety. And that concludes my presentation. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah, any questions or comments? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And are we, when we're maintaining our light rail trains, our vehicles, are we able to keep them here now in Minnesota and do some of that maintenance where I think it was a few years ago we had to send them out of state? Are we planning for any capital expansions for keeping some of that work in Minnesota? Or in Met Council, I guess, or Metro Transit, I should say?
Chair Barber, Councilmember Johnson, certainly if there are specific projects in here that Deputy General Manager Brian Funk wants to address, we can do that. But I'd say in general, our goal is always to do the work here as we can. So, I know which issue you're referring to where that wasn't an option for us, but certainly our approach is to do the work here when we're able to. So.
Okay. I know that there was certainly people inside Metro Transit that really wanted that ability.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of work, so I just didn't know what the status was or where it might show up in capital, so thank you for that.
Okay, additional questions or comments? All right, if you have any, feel free to reach out. I mean, it's a lot of, lots of big dollars and lots of investments. So definitely, if you have questions, reach out to either Heather or Kristen. So, all right, with that, that actually concludes our agenda for this evening. If there's nothing else. Cool. All right, we can be adjourned.
Good to see you, ma'am.